Okay folks, so as you can see here we have one pipe cutter, the red thing, installed on the old brake line, the hard pipe, which is actually the Celicas original line. So I've managed to bend the pipe down a little to a straight section. I'm going to rotate that and tighten. There's a screw on the end of the red tool, and you keep tightening it and rotating it around the pipe, and it gives you a good clean cut. And what that'll do is that'll cut out this section here, and then we'll have a nice vertical section that we can put a male and female onto and make our own section of hard brake line here. I've actually also got the fittings that match with the new brake lines, so far so good, and let's see how we get on. Okay folks, so as you can see here we have one pipe cutter, the red thing, installed on the old brake line, the hard pipe, which is actually the Celicas original line. So I've managed to bend the pipe down a little to a straight section. I'm going to rotate that and tighten. There's a screw on the end of the red tool, and you keep tightening it and rotating it around the pipe, and it gives you a good clean cut. And what that'll do is that'll cut out this section here, and then we'll have a nice vertical section that we can put a male and female onto and make our own section of hard brake line here. I've actually also got the fittings that match with the new brake lines, so far so good, and let's see how we get on. Okay, there you go. That's the brake line actually cut and bent down now. So what we'll do is we'll look at getting a fitting, work out which fittings we have, and then work our way around. Hopefully then we can make it match up with this original bracket. So that's the plan, just to bend it up in a gentle loop and over onto the bracket. Okay folks, so this is what I'm trying to replicate. Here's the new brake line. It's a M10 by 1 mil thread. Then we've got our M10 by 1 male connection, which will bolt in there, screw in. This is the section of brake line that we cut out, so the new line will obviously go in there, and then we need to find a way of connecting this end on there. So that's going to be a male and a female, and that female will go compressed on to the original hard line. So we just have a new section of line between the male, and the female will then be clamped on to the original line. So that's the plan. Hopefully this will be the tough part, using the tool on the car, if I can find the tool somewhere. Yeah, so using this tool, we'll actually clamp this around the brake line on the car, and that will give us our initial sort of cone thread. And we'll slide the female on, and then we'll put the line into this tool, and that will mean that you have the perfect sort of fitting to actually be leak proof, and then join the lines. So basically it's slow and steady, just take your time on it, and yeah, and then all we can do is leak test it afterwards, and if not, then you do another one. You just get practice. So what I've done is I've been practicing on a small section, and you can get a couple of different types of cones actually made. If the camera will focus, there's that, there's also that. Hard to see actually, maybe my iPhone won't focus on this at all. There you go, there's one end, and I try it again on the other end. So I'm gonna go with this type of flare, and the female will then be, so we'll slide, imagine this is the original hard line, we'll slide the female connection on here, then we'll crimp the end, slide the female down, and attach a male with the new line. And just before we actually attach the female, this black outer coating is actually like a rubberized coating on the stainless steel line. So I'm going to have to get a Stanley blade and cut that off first, so that I can actually get the stainless steel through the ferrule. So a bit more precision, and make sure you wear gloves, because it's slippery, it's greasy, and you don't want to stab yourself or slice your finger open doing this. Okay, so here's the tool fitted. So it's 2 halves and these 2 bolts securing the top cover under the base. The pipe is going in through, if you can see there, and then the female is already on in the right direction. So the reason being, for the stainless lines are incredibly hard to get a straight cut on, so that I could slide this union the whole way back. I tried to get as straight a section as I could, but by the time you cut it, any little bend at all prevents this moving up the pipe. So I had to play around with these vice clamps to try and manipulate the pipe straight. So hopefully get it on here, it's straight enough. The clamp will bend the remainder into shape. Yeah, it's pretty tough. That's why I think, you know, obviously you're making your own brake lines, you go for the copper line, which is a lot easier to bend and manipulate, and it still takes the same pressure for the system. So hopefully this works first time. If not, first time doing it, I'll just cut back more line underneath, and probably trace it around under that way and get a long straight section underneath the chassis if I need to, if this doesn't work. So we'll basically, yeah, we'll give it a go. Okay, here you go. Here's the flare. So this fits like this. We screw the nail in, so that obviously prevents the leak going out that way. It secures it on, and it will clamp down tight once the two threads come together. So finally making some progress. So basically, I'll give you a very quick walkthrough. Pipe went on there. If you imagine this is in the pipe, you then put this on hand tight, and there's a stopper that screws in here, and then once you've tightened that in fully, you take it out, and depending on the type of flare you want, you then tighten this one in fully, and this is what, when the pipe's clamped in here, this goes in tight and it puts the flare on the end. So actually a really simple tool to use and absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely saved my skin this time, I think. So that's the first bit, that's the hard pipe on the car done. So now what we'll do is we'll get about bending. We can bend that up a little there, or any direction that suits. So we'll maybe have it there for access, and then we'll put a meal with a copper hose and we'll bring it round to about here. So we have maybe a couple of gentle bends, something like that. So we'll start there. Needs to come 90 degrees up, forward and down. So yeah, so we'll get there. Okay, so here's one end, meal, turn it around, another end, meal. So this will go into the car side, and this will connect to the flexi hose, and we'll bend it. We'll crimp both ends, and then we'll bend it in position on the car as needed. You want to get a bit of the special grease on each end. Firstly though, we will put on see how much easier it is to bend copper than stainless. Same again. If you can see, that slides on there. Okay, and a bit of grease paste. So both ends look like this. Then we're going to get the end of our tool, put our pipe in, so you want it about maybe just about there, like so. These go on hand tight. You want to try and do this without moving the hose as well, so that you know it's still in position internally. Okay, so you can see it in there with the grease on it. So what you do next is, these are hand tight, and it looks like so. You then get your stopper, and that goes in the end here. Actually, a good way of doing it, as I found out the last time, is to clamp both sides with your fingers so that you have the good threads lined up here. Put your stopper in so that it's 5mm, roughly up to 5mm. See that gap there? You want about 5mm gap, and then you tighten by hand. Okay, so now it looks like this. You've got a gap there. These are hand tight. So far so good. Now you get a 16mm or a nice trusty shifting spanner, and you tighten this one in fully. Okay, so that is now tight. Now you tighten these two with the 10mm. Okay, that's pretty tight. So both tight, this is tight. You can actually see some of the grease squeezing out the side, so you know it's nice and tight there. Next step is to take the stopper out again. Yep, it's tight. Okay. And now, depending on the type of flare you want, I just want the initial flare, so I'm using this. It says OP1 there, so that's what you put inside here, and you tighten down the whole way. It'll start to feel more force the tighter you get, but that's because the pipe is clamped and you're now compressing the end, and that's making the lovely flare that you need. That's it. So now we slacken everything off, do it all again on the other end of the pipe. Okay. And there you go. See if I can focus. So that was obviously a straight pipe, and now you've got a nice flare on the end, and that'll hold that on. Now we basically insert that into the female end on the car, tighten the two down, and that's your fitting. And now we'll work on this end, which is the end that's going to go to the flexi line. So exactly same process again. What happens is if you put your pipe too far in here, once these are hand tight and you tighten the stopper, it actually pushes it to the correct distance, so internally it's the right length there for the tool. So now what you do is, this is the reason you tighten your locking pins second, because they'll actually be the things clamping the pipe in place. And because you've got a thread on the stopper, you're able to remove it, and this keeps the pipe tight. So it's actually really ingenious, really simple tool, but worth every penny. There we go. Take this out. It does take some force to get the stopper off once you've tightened those, but that's a good thing. So again, we check our end. OP1 facing that way, forward. That goes into the tool. And then we tighten. There we go. And that's the second one done, complete. And there we go. Male and male ends ready to be bent, custom fitted on the car. Okay, there you go. So female and the new male one with the new pipe, and it's just kind of roughly bent for now up to the bracket where I need it. And then we can actually put on the new braided hose, which was what we're trying to do in the first place. That connects to the back of the caliper, and that's pretty much it. Job done. And hopefully I don't have to do the same again on the other side. So it's an 11 and 13 mil spanner for these fittings, and please do use that, because shifting spanners, you know, monkey wrenches, whatever, you'll end up slipping, you won't get a nice tight fit, and it'll leak or you'll damage a thread. So right tool for the right job. Sounds boring, but it works. So now we'll get this one fitted, and that's hopefully the brake line on. And then tomorrow we'll do a leak test, fill the system from the header tank under the bonnet, and I think also then try and tackle the last brakes on the other side and do the same again for these hoses.